Hello and a very warm welcome to ETAuto, to this very special event on the automotive retail industry called the ETAuto Retail Forum, and to this very special panel discussion around digitalization in the automotive retail industry. We all know the automotive industry has always been a playground or a canvas for technology. And in this disruptive era, in this era of innovation, this landscape is getting expanded. And technology is, digital technology rather, is moving into the showroom space, into the retail space, not only into the retail sales space, but also on the workshop side of the automotive retail business. To discuss the status of this trend and how it is going to evolve in the coming years, not only in India, but maybe in some globally, what are the trends, and also how will the Indian consumer behave in this changing scenario. So we will discuss all these and more in this very special panel discussion on digitalization, going beyond the limits. It's my privilege and honor to welcome our esteemed panelists to this panel discussion. Mr. Martin Schwenk, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, Mercedes-Benz India. Mr. Shashank Srivastava, Senior Executive Director, Maruti Suzuki India. Mr. C.S. Vigneshwar, Deputy Managing Director, ARC Group, and also the Secretary of FADA. And last but not the least, Prashant Sinha, co-founder and Chief Revenue Officer at Metadome, one of the technology providers to the automotive industry and other sectors also in the retail space. So gentlemen, thank you very much for sparing your time. We look forward to a very, very insightful and interesting panel discussion over the next 40-45 odd minutes. So warm welcome on behalf of all my colleagues at ETAuto too. So straight away, Martin, it's not too long ago, Mercedes-Benz took a very radical step in India of what it calls retail of the future. You're going directly to the consumer. And in this, over the last few, how has been your experience, and what are the key insights that you have gained and the feedback you have received so far?
Yeah, in my view, it is even more than I thought when we planned it. It is a model which is really the retail of the future. We get very good feedback from our franchise partners in terms of transparency of process, in terms of ease of transaction, in terms of customer relationship and focusing on customers. On the other hand, we get also very good feedback from our customers who appreciate the fact how they deal and transact via our partners with the brand itself and the additional added potential. I have to say, though, that the start was not always easy. We completely changed. It's more than 10 IT systems which are integrated at the back end at the same time with supply constraints, which we have in several of our models. There was a little bit of confusion from time to time, and customers were, for example, saying it's a great model, but it doesn't work because I don't get my car. And I have to make it very clear. We have to separate, say, supply situations from actual retail model. Retail model is really providing what it should do. And I can just say a very good start we have with that. And the future is, for me, very bright. I can later maybe expand a little bit more on that if you wish. Also, when we come to digitization at the potentials that this model is creating, also not only for the manufacturers, but also for the customer.
Right. We will, in fact, discuss more in detail on that the business model. But Shashank-san, let me bring you in here. Maruti Suzuki sits exactly on the other end of the spectrum, price spectrum of the passenger vehicle industry as compared to Mercedes-Benz. In your case, the dynamics are quite different. This growing D2C or direct to consumer trend, what is the scope you see for this trend in India, especially on the mainstream or the volume segment of the Indian passenger vehicle industry?
Yes, I think it's a radical system. Given that in the last almost 100 years of the industry, we have always had this dealer as an entrepreneur type of model, which is now shifting to it being just a agency is of the OEM, just the execution part being there. So it's a radical system, and as Martin was mentioning that. The results seem to be good because the dealer is not bothered about the inventory carrying costs, the transportation costs, etc., and he's just focusing on the consumer. And I remember having a discussion earlier also on the same subject, and I thought that for large volume players like Maruti Suzuki, and also in fact across the world for many people, if we try this system, it could be a good system ultimately, but would go through a long series of tests and hurdles. And I think the going forward as for a diverse country as India, with to have that accuracy of logistics and the tracking of consumers, I still feel that it's a little early, but as Martin has mentioned earlier, it's a great system, especially for smaller volumes. It can be a test whether it can really be applied for the bigger volume. At the moment, I think an intermediate stage with Maruti Suzuki has been following is the stockyard model, where in order to reduce the delivery times to the consumers and to the dealers, we have regional stockyards, and the current GST regime allows that. The taxation laws now allow, without any loss of on account of taxes, you can have a faster delivery to the dealer and hence to the consumer. So it's a mix. I think we have to wait and watch. There are a lot of companies who have been trying it. Of course, you have Mercedes trying it here in India as well as Sweden, I think Austria, South Africa as well. BMW is trying in South Africa. Honda is trying in New Zealand, Australia. You have Toyota trying it in New Zealand. So it's getting bigger, and I think there must be some real positives, which is why these companies have started. Although, as Martin said, it is really at the moment for the smaller volume players.
In this era of globalization and global megatrends, I think this is also emerging as a global trend. And of course, there'll be exchange of notes in different countries and exchange of ideas and best adoption of best practices to kind of overcome these hurdles and find out the most optimal way of adopting these new systems. Let me bring you in, Vignesh, here. You represent the dealer fraternity. So two things are happening. One is in this kind of evolving, emerging D2C trend, the role of the dealer across sectors, I'm not talking only about automotive, across sectors, it's perhaps changing. And at the same time, even if you look at the conventional traditional model of distribution, even there's an emerging trend of phygital, dealerships going phygital. Where does the trend stand now? What's the status of this trend? And on the other side, as I said earlier, on the D2C side, what is the changing role of the dealership you think is going to be in the automotive space?
Thanks for the opportunity. Sumantra, the dealership model has been existing for over a century. And over a century, it has been evolving according to the challenges which has been thrown up. I see this as an opportunity, the phygital space. Today, the customer isn't coming to shop in our showrooms. He's coming there to make a buying decision. The shopping has already happened digitally. The shopping has already happened. He's already gone and gathered information. In fact, over the years, we have seen that the buying decision, the time taken, the time has actually been reducing. We at dealerships are no more educating customers regarding all the specifics. Yes, we do regarding very, very small aspects of it. But most of the decision is probably made. And the customer, yes, we have choices from dozens of models in any given segment. But the customer doesn't come there confused. The customer comes there extremely clear with only a few options in hand. And we at the dealerships need to convince him. And the space where Prashant is coming from is probably a space which needs to be really dwelled on. It hasn't really matured as such in India. As he mentioned, he threw a few names, but these few names would probably, I would think that he would probably add on much more names to it in the next few years. For the example, the pandemic. During the pandemic, we were, as dealers, we had to really evolve. We had to shoot from the hip, and we had to learn things quickly. Gone were the activities which were physical activities, where we used to do melas, we used to do exhibitions of cars in different pockets of the city or the rural areas. Most of it were actually went digital. And to an extent, it's not my opinion alone, but opinion of quite a few of my dealer friends who basically told me that their cost of operations versus sales, actually the cost of operations dropped per sale just because we were going digital. But again, the world started coming back to normalcy, and the costs also started going up because we had to again go back, do activities and all that. Simply said, digital is really helping us out. I wish companies like Prashant's, our Metadome can actually come there and educate us and show us the potential where we could use this. Of course, it has to be worked in partnership. We probably could give subject expertise regarding our industry, and the technical expertise needs to come from such digital entrepreneurs.
Vignesh, I mean, I'll come back to you again, because again, as an entrepreneur yourself, as an industry player yourself, you have an interesting profile. You deal from two-wheelers to commercial vehicles and passenger vehicles in between. So I'm sure the dynamics are changing at a different pace, and the consumer behavior and preference are also quite different. And also when it comes to adoption of digital technologies or kind of communicating with you. So
you'd be surprised about the answer which I would give in case I'm led to talk on that. We'll of course cover it later.
Yes, of course. I'm looking forward to that. But let me bring in Prashant here. You're perhaps you are sharing the space with some potential client of yours. But tell us, what is your take on the kind of this evolution of this phygital space and the adoption of digital technologies in the retail space and basis? And also, can you share some initial experiences that you have had with two of the OEM clients that you've already gone on board?
Thank you for having me here. And I'm the co-founder and chief revenue officer at Metadome, formerly at Lloyd. We are a deep tech, immersive tech, augmented reality company based in India and the United States. Metadome is building a metaverse which will provide a no-code infrastructure to millions of creators and brands to build immersive experiences for the virtual world and their customers. And Barooah has already built an augmented reality platform that is empowering brands and enterprises to create meaningful, immersive experiences for its customers.
Which is probably so we have to understand that from the initial days of some of your automotive OEM clients adopting this, what is the feedback and what kind of value have you been able to offer to them?
Sumantra, I would like to bring some numbers here because we keep on researching. Though I come from an automobile background, prior to starting my own venture, I was part of one of the German auto OEM and was taking care of North India. So I'm pretty much familiar with the customer buying journey. And post-pandemic, the buying behavior has changed. Also, the new age buyer wants everything online. There was a time when everything was happening physically. Then there was a transformation from physical to digital, where we witnessed e-commerce and D2C approach. Now the time has come where the big revolution from physical to virtual has already started. Auto brands globally are thinking of getting into giving virtual experiences to their customers. And of course, global tech giants like Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Meta are working towards immersive experiences. So it's your topic is really great, that going beyond digital. So what is beyond digital is virtual, and that's what we created for two of the auto major brands. One is the largest two-wheeler manufacturer across the globe, and the other one is, of course, from the two-wheeler, four-wheeler in Indian brand.
I think if you can find the contracts, I think you can name them.
Yes, yes. So we are working with the Hero MotoCorp. The recent virtual showroom of Hero MotoCorp got launched on our platform, and very soon, within a week's time or maybe 10 days, you'll see a world-class, virtual showroom by Tata Motors as well. And you have everything there. And you know what I realized, that when we were talking with these brands, especially these two brands, they are thinking much ahead of the time, where they want to engage the customers. And let me tell you some figures. A prospective car buyer goes online approximately 56 to 60 times and spend approximately 12 to 13 hours cumulative on exploring the car before he finally shortlists 2 or 3 cars, and then he explores the pricing and offers, and then he visits the showroom. If the brand does not engage them when he's spending good amount of time online, 62% chances are they will end up losing that prospective buyer, since they did not engage them at the digital points. I'll tell you a real analytics with one of the, I can name it, Hero MotoCorp. With the introduction of immersive virtual showroom, product configurator, and augmented reality experience, the average time spent by the user has gone 10 to 11 times. Meaning, if the customer is spending on an average of 1 minute on their website, it has gone to an average of 11 minutes. What does that mean? That means you have engaged prospective buyer with your brand more, and chances of brand coming to buyer consideration goes very high. And that's where you get a super qualified lead, and which ultimately converts into retail, and the retail conversion hence enhances. So with the changing world, with the changing buying behavior of the customer, with post-pandemic, you may say it, the companies will have to adapt these newer technology or immersive technologies.
Okay, Prashant, now we get that some interesting insights that you have shared, and I'm sure there'll be merit in adopting the virtual showroom concept, but perhaps it may not be a one-size-fits-all for the automotive industry. So let's get in the industry viewpoint. Martin, you have also kind of, you have not really adopted the virtual showroom concept, but you have really adopted digitalization in a major way, wherein not much of your your prospective customers can go to your portal and do everything required, including to making the final payment. So I'm sure the figures which Prashant shared, they are perhaps more on the volume segment. But in your case, how has it been? How's been the journey? Can you just share some key anecdotes or key insights?
I mean, yeah, I think a lot of topics Prashant was mentioning, they valid across all segments and probably even across industries. But I would want to expand a little bit more around it. We have currently around 20% of our sales is done online. That means you have a booking paid in the online space, basically on our e-commerce platform. And that comes over the last 2 years. We had initiated 2.5 years ago our platform, and then and we were at 1-3%, and then with the first lockdown 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, we did really put a lot of efforts in, not only made it easier and smoother, the entire transaction, but also upgraded the whole infrastructure and systems around that. So you have this digital momentum that is there. We had months where we got into like 30-40% of bookings, obviously, and I think consistently it can be higher than what it is today. But I would also want to make clear, our firm belief is that the customer is at any time, anywhere, and basically coexisting in all spaces, in the physical space, in the digital space, and he or she is not stuck in one or the other space. They move between these areas, and what at the end the challenge is to create, it's an easy keyword to say a seamless customer journey, but it's actually what you need to aim at, and to have a really seamless experience for the customer, because a lot of happens in the online space, also in terms of information sharing. at the same time, a lot of physical experience with the family, with the friends, is still appreciated. And I don't think that goes away. I think we see this back and forth. And I think what then the real bringer really needs to happen is that it is seamless and joint. And that's why I would want to expand again also towards the business model. Because if you have the same inventory you show online as offline, if you have the same pricing, the same offers, the same transparency on the transaction itself, you can capture the customer in his or her journey in a way that they feel at home, wherever they are, physically or digitally. So I would say it can be virtually, it can be meta, it can be anything, but at the end it needs to be consistent and transparent. And a positive experience to the customer. So if you really want to go forward, you have to look into the entire business model. And I give you a simple example. I mean, today a customer comes, for example, online or via a call center, or he comes to the showroom. Either way, we can, out of our franchise partner, which is formerly known as dealer, our franchise partner will be able to, for example, send the link to the car the customer has looked at, the very VIN which he has seen in the showroom, or the very VIN he wants to have out of our own inventory, which is the Mercedes-Benz India inventory. He can move the customer from showroom to booking online and back and forth. So we have a lot of showroom-induced bookings, for example, which at the end become online bookings because the customer was there before, he gets the link, he can be managed in that way. So this seamless, and I want to put one more topic there. In order to be seamless, you should not compete between, say, the manufacturer and the franchise partner. And that's also something which I find fundamental. Yeah, you have to have the same transparency, the same price, and you have to work hand in hand. We have not set up something for Mercedes-Benz in Pune which competes with what our franchise partners are doing. The mindset, the work, everything is about complementing to capture the customer, to give a great experience to the customer and provide what he or she wants and needs. If you start trying to be extra clever and you set up an online platform for a manufacturer and you have your different pricing, different offerings, different inventories, you will naturally compete against your franchise partner. Franchise partner will do the same. And at the end, you can say, okay, competition improves the performance. That is to some extent true, but on the other hand, it creates problems in terms of transparency and clarity to the customer. So our view is we service the customer and we compete much more via the experience. Our franchise partner, they compete experience 1 against experience 2 or A against B. That is the view. And that's why I really want to expand from a more question. Is it virtual? Is it digital? What is it? It should be seamless in one space, and the space is a hybrid space, and the customer is anywhere at any point in time.
So 3 keywords I take. One is seamlessness, transparency, and consistency from what you've remarked. From what I understand, so you are saying your dealers, or rather now franchisee partners, they will remain, and in fact the number of franchisee partners can also increase in the coming years for Mercedes-Benz, even as you adopt more digital.
Again, the question is how many physical outlets you need. The number of franchise partners is another question. I mean, it needs to make commercial sense for the franchise partner, for the network, for the entire. I mean, at the end, the question is, what do you need in physical presence? And I believe you need a reasonable, strong physical presence to provide the physical experience. You may not need, say, the same size of showrooms. So you may, for example, be able to focus on quality instead of quantity. For our strategy, we have clearly said we are relevant in all relevant markets to us. We are present at current. Now it's about providing better, higher quality of experience. And then you can see what is needed in the future. But if you have reasonable, strong sales, say car park in an area, I still think customers love to do that. You know, I mean, all of us do that. When you sit with your family, your wife, your kids, whatever, you can look into the same iPad or whatever. But it's also nice on a Saturday morning to say, what do we do today? Let's have a look at, and you go on a test drive, you look at a car. I cannot see that this in our segment falls completely away. Of course, if you sell a commodity, it reduces, yeah. But I mean, a car is still an emotional product, and I believe this seamlessness, yeah. You look at the car, you know, you can, in our system, you can online look. If I go here, the dealership here in Pune, say, Bio Bandari, I can see what he has to sell. I can select the car. I can go there. I can have a look at the car. Yeah, I can drive the same or similar car. And then I can take this car or another car. And I think customers still will want that. I don't think we have to say virtual is not coming. I'm a firm believer, but I'm a even stronger believer in the coexistence in terms of in different channels and approaches in order to capture the attention and the customer and his or her experience.
In fact, I think they will coexist. And talking about the experience of going to a showroom with a family, in fact, I can tell you for sure, just yesterday, me and my family, we were just doing some, as part of our exploratory kind of works. We went to a showroom, and what you're saying, actually, I could relate to that. And indeed, that is a totally different experience altogether. While I can get the same information on my tablet also. But let me get Shashank-san's view. Now, Shashank-san, you have been, Maruti Suzuki has been increasingly adopting digital technologies, the digital approach in many of its activities, from bookings to insurance and service to whatnot. Which are the areas where the kind of transition has been relatively easier and more rewarding? And which are the areas where you think there is a little bit of hurdles or challenges, or may perhaps take longer time?
The areas, I'm not sure.
Right now, what percentage of sales or bookings come from digital from the digital platform, for starters?
Yeah, so it's around 40% coming from the platform, digital platform. However, I would really emphasize the point which Martin also mentioned, that car buying is both emotional, and it's also a high involvement product. At least from the Indian point of view, it is probably the second largest purchase you make in your lifetime after house. So just as a house, you would probably not buy by clicking on the internet. You would probably like to know how the neighborhood is, or who your neighbors are. Similarly, I think it's the same with cars. It's a high involvement product. And I find, I mean, I was recently going through a Deloitte study, which mentions that even in countries like Japan, Germany, US, China, everywhere, the physical part of the car buying process continues to be very strong. So it is what we call phygital. So you have, for example, we have researched it from Maruti Suzuki's perspective. We have researched the journey of car buying process, right from the time a consumer decides to think of buying a car to when he takes the actual delivery of the car. We have about 26 touch points. So people go and they go to the blogs, they go to some digital forums, they take a pro forma invoice, they contact the showroom virtually, and so on and so forth. So there are 26 points. 24 of them are digitized. Now that doesn't mean that for that the physical option is not available. It is available. So consumers can go to the dealership and take a pro forma invoice, for example, or see the car, etc. The only 2 points which are not digitized, and which would probably not be digitized for the coming future as well, is the test drive and the actual delivery. So even the actual delivery, of course, you have to do a physical delivery, even if it is at the consumer's homes. You can't really transport the vehicle digitally, like in Star Wars. But you therefore need to have a physical infrastructure. So it's about phygital rather than digital. And I think when we look at the actual statistics of people who are researching online, the study which I saw very recently, last month's study, 92% of the people who buy a car research online. 72% choose the dealer through research online. Even this is true for used cars as well. It is also true, by the way, for financing. 56% people choose now financiers through digital means. I tell you, it's of course, we are talking today digitization only in the context of retail rather than, but there is not just an inquiry management and related thing on digitization.
But you have it on the service side also, right?
Service, yes, you have a huge, I mean, you can, starting from by service, you have insurance, you have finance, you have extended warranty, you have accessories, you have a car configurator where people can choose different combinations of accessories and how the car would look and so on and so forth. That is why when we have an inquiry, and I mentioned 40% is on digital space, used to be 3% in 2016-17. So pandemic has accelerated it, and I think it's not going, without the pandemic also it would have, it was going in a very rapid way towards digitization. Inquiry to retail, our turnaround time is about 23 days or 24 days. In case of digital inquiry, it is 9 days. And the reason is because he has spent much of the time doing the research online. And you would also have observed, and data shows that the predetermined buyers have gone up hugely the last 5 years. For example, for a particular model, like if 58% what it was predetermined buying in 2016 is now up to 61%. But for the OEMs, it used to be 74%, has become 80%. That means if somebody 80% of the time when he goes into a Maruti showroom, he has decided to buy a Maruti product, not necessarily a model. On the model level, it is around 61%. So the he may come and decide, I want to buy a Wagon-R. Yes, and he may buy a Celerio, but he's sure he's going to buy the Maruti. That's because of this digitization enables that. So we have to do both things. We have to do physical also excellence, because as I said, it's a high involvement product. People want to have the physical touch and feel. At the same time, we also need to strengthen the digital space, because most of the activities, and I think Prashant mentioned 12 hours or something. In our case, it's about 8.5 hours is the time spent by each consumer before he comes and, he becomes a predetermined buyer, so to say. And it's not just this, and I completely agree with Martin. It's about omni-channel, which means it can be a mix of experience for consumer, not just on the internet or digital space, but it could be a mix. He could be switching between the devices he's using in the internet space, as also between physical and digital. So it's not just a hybrid, it is actually omni-channel within a physical space or within the internet. And we are talking only in respect to a particular type of customer. Of course, geographically, you have different types of consumers. For example, in rural areas, people actually do not only want a physical presence of the showroom, but also person speaking to them. So in a rural area, no matter you may have a physical presence, but they want to talk to somebody. They are not even if they are using internet. Today in rural India, there are as many internet users as there are in urban India. But in terms of cars, they still want to have trust of a physical.
The value of interpersonal communication, I think they value it much more they want it. They demand it much more than perhaps in urban areas.
Absolutely. And that is why, for those companies like Maruti Suzuki, we have a substantial chunk of sales coming from the smaller cities as well. And therefore, for us, probably it is in those geographies more, I would say, physical, and in urban it is digital. So it is like priority seems to become a little change. And remember, we are only talking in terms of inquiry management. There are other areas where the customer has thing, for example, the consumption of media, or for example, the different data analytics that you do in different geographies. It could be different based on the type of consumer.
Indeed, and who else? Who better than a dealer to draw the picture of the real on-ground scenario? Vignesh, you were talking about, we were discussing a little while ago, and since you deal with three different product segments. For the viewers, I mean, Vignesh deals with Benelli in the two-wheeler space. Toyota it's been a long-standing Toyota dealer, and also a long-standing Volvo Eicher dealer. So motorcycles to passenger vehicles to heavy trucks. You said that you have some interesting insights to share on the consumer kind of reaction or consumer adoption trend of when it comes to digital technologies.
To start off with, I just want to have a setting of the ground. For example, we as dealers view digital as a great tool to make sure that customers are funneled into our showrooms. And this tool is so strong and is going to become stronger, as Shashank also mentioned, that more and more people are going to start investing time in learning. So it also makes our life easier as dealers and also as manufacturers. We don't need to educate people as much as we used to and spend time on it. And as Martin mentioned, these physical experiences are very, very important. You know, we have the 5 physical senses. Digital can only take you that much. But yes, there are certain technologies which can give you a touch of feel and all that, but it's going to be too expensive and it can't be provided on all digital platforms and devices, which is with the customer. We also need to think about showrooms of the future as boutique rather than Taj Mahals. We really can't afford having extremely massive, expensive facilities at prime locations. We would rather want to go closer to the customer, and that's where we probably need to make the last mile connectivity, and because India is a large place and not all of India lives in urban centers. So having said that, we probably need to go closer to them. It has also been proven that brick and mortar is so important, and where the dealer network is so important, because we know that a particular two-wheeler EV brand in India is far away from its production promises and delivery promises. And a lot of it also has to do with, you know, the CMVR rules has not been implemented in every state. So every state, some of them are digitized, some of them are not, and some of them are, somewhere in the middle. So these are all the complexities of a very, very complex country. And we probably need to also take that into cognizance. You also have service issues. You have service issues with one of the most prime electric car manufacturers in the world. I mean, they make great cars, but they probably take a few months to deliver a body panel. And because they don't have enough infrastructure compared to a Ford or a GM, they have probably 4-5% of their service centers in terms of comparisons. And that again is an issue where you need a physical dealer and a physical presence. Coming back to the interesting topic of which industry, commercial vehicles, cars, or two-wheelers would be quicker to digitize, my personal viewpoint through experience is that the commercial vehicle industry would be easier to get there. Out of these 3 cars, the two-wheeler customer, the four-wheeler, the car customer, or the truck bus customer, the truck or bus customer doesn't visit the dealership. We need to visit them. Our sales officers need to give an outreach to the customer. The two-wheeler customer would like to come and test and drive, feel the vehicle, ride the bike. Similar with the four-wheeler customer, where they will come with a family, because it's a huge buying decision. As Shashank said, after a house, this is the largest cost in terms of asset invested. So the whole family is a buying decision. The whole the friend circles, as Martin mentioned, is a buying. They always look forward to that. Because the commercial vehicle industry, there are so many variants. No one actually walks to a showroom and says, I want to test drive this vehicle, or I want to see this vehicle. It doesn't happen that way. It used to happen with booklets. Right now, it is actually happening with tablets. And that's where the industry is. So the commercial vehicle industry is primed for this. If we can, give that tool to the particular sales officers, and if you get able to enhance it, the customer experience is going to become that much better.
Have you witnessed in terms of any change in your business, say, let's say turnaround time in terms of decision by the customer, or let's say the overall business, ever since you started investing in digital tools, also in digitalizing some of your operations?
I don't have the exact metrics, but the turnaround time has dropped so much that we are right now concentrating more on delivering cars rather than convincing a customer, the car has this much of cc of an engine, it has this gearbox, it has this specification. I mean, nothing. The customer comes there well informed. He's already knows what to buy. He probably has a choice, one or two brands in mind, if at all, and then he makes his buying choice. And rightly said, there's also a buying choice between dealers. He may probably hop into a couple of dealers just to see how these guys are treating us. That's where the dealerships need to provide a differential sales experience, either across brands or within the brand, to make sure that they give the customer more than the OEM brand one more reason, which is the dealer brand, to actually come and buy a vehicle from us.
I think, Martin, you'll agree to that. I mean, as you said, competition, but competition between, let's say, in your case, the franchisee partners. So may the better player win, the better player in terms of better customer service or better customer relations, which will earn brownie points for the brand also.
Absolutely. I think it's all about the customer experience at the end. Yeah? And we need to make sure that we have best happiness with the customer. And so I think all of us try to eliminate the churn out of the churn out of the journey, so to say. Yeah. And the question is how to do that in the most clever way and provide the best experience. Yeah. And I mean, I gave my pennies to that, my thoughts there. So I'm thinking we all work to make that happen. Yeah.
And now, Prashant, I mean, like Vignesh was saying, and I agree. I mean, there's perhaps there is a limit as of date. I'm saying for digital technology or software technology to kind of replicate what is possible in the physical world. Like, for example, now when it comes to car, buying decision, or rather before that, making the right choice, something as simple as, let's say, the sense of smell, the smell of a new car inside. It could also play a kind of role in the overall decision against or for the car. So how can that be replicated in the virtual? That will be a challenge, right? In virtual showroom, or you provide some other value which will kind of outweigh this deficit.
Well, Sumantra, I completely agree with Martin and Shashank and Vigneshwar that you cannot replace the physical or brick and mortar. Probably what Mercedes is doing now, going with D2C approach, where you also have the physical showroom as an experiential thing. Because car buying, rightly said, is very emotional buying. It's not a 2 days or 3 days journey. It's like 6 to 8 weeks journey, right? But at the same time, I would say that even, I have a question here and to the brands. And, if I'm a buyer, I'm spending good 50 lakhs rupees buying a Mercedes C-Class, right? And I go to a showroom. I want to buy a mid-variant car and I actually want to look at the red color car. And on the display, there is maybe a white color top-end variant. So I would like to see that car. So even there is a limitation of, as rightly said by Vigneshwar, that there should be a boutique showroom or maybe experiential showroom. But with this technology coming in the picture, where you have virtual reality or augmented reality, you can actually augment a real size car sitting at your home. Not only one variant, but all the variants, all the color, and not only that, you can also show it to your friends and family. How many times do you go to a showroom? I mean, probably you go to a showroom when you are so digital touch points very important, and not digital. I would say the world is moving from digital to virtual. That the brands will have to think on that line, that how to bring virtual experience. If somebody is spending 12 hours, let's say in Maruti's case, 8 hours, right? So how to give them the best of experience, and the touch and feel is not there, but look and feel is always there on virtual. We are trying to come up with virtual test drive as well. My team is working on it. We have a great R&D team, and we are a team of 150 people out of 90s are from ITs. And one thing more, all these new age buyer, I'll tell you what, my company, the average salary right here is 45 lakhs because we recruited from best of the college IITs and IM. And the average age is 23, 24 years. Are they not capable of buying a Mercedes or a Maruti? Yes, they are. But they would never ever want these young age buyers. Maybe I can go to a showroom, can I have the smell of the tire or can I have smell of the leather? But new age buyer are like kind of completely, they want everything virtual. And that's the reason, big companies like Google, Microsoft investing 70 billion on metaverse, and along with Qualcomm and Meta coming. So my only submission is here that we should not look at right now what is happening. We should look from a perspective of what is going to happen down the line 5 years from now. Companies who will
5 years from
adopt
now.
digital.
What will happen 5 years from now? I think that is the last question I would throw to each of the panelists to share in not more than maybe 15, 20 seconds because we are running out of time. And Prashant, as from what I gather from hearing you and from hearing Martin, who has already rolled out a very radical business model, Shashank Srivastava, who's Maruti Suzuki, has increasingly adopting digital, and Vignesh, who is already seeing rolling out these digitalization or getting digitalization steps by the OEMs he represents, and also getting the customer feedback. From what I gather is that there'll be room for both. Perhaps the room for virtual showroom kind of technology will also increase, but at the same time, a country of India's scale and size and the very different demographics, I'm sure there'll be enough and more room for both physical and digital. And last words from each one of you, starting with you, Shashank-san. In the next 5 years, where do you see the digitalization trend going in the automotive retail space?
So I mentioned digi-physical will become more phygital, and probably the digital component will keep increasing. And also, I think while we discussed a lot about the consumer journey and consumer experience using digitalization, that's one aspect. The other aspect from marketers' point of view is to have this data about the consumers, which helps us actually do data analytics, collect data in a huge and using AI ML tools to actually predict consumer behavior. We can actually do an analysis to reach out to consumer lookalikes, draw inferences, create personalized experience. That part, I think, will become increasingly important going forward.
Indeed, and you can profile your customer better, and therefore maybe offer them customized communication and
Solutions.
also get the feedback.
Solutions, yeah, mobility solution, yes.
Martin, your view, where do you see the digitalization trend moving into in India over the next 5 years or so?
Yeah, I clearly see that we will see even stronger adoption of the online channels. We will also see true online transaction where the whole process is really online. Shashank was talking about the touch points. We will get more and more seamless online transaction. And I can clearly see also elements like Prashant was talking about visualization and different ways of augmented or virtual reality. That is for sure to complement the entire sales experience. I clearly see that. At the same time, I heard about boutique experience. I would also believe we'll get a focused and qualitatively higher experience in the physical showrooms, and overall with the aim to service the customer better. We did not talk about data until Shashank was mentioning it just now. For sure, the integration of information has huge potential to influence not only how we market cars, but also how we plan them, how we build. I mean, with transparency, for example, on what the demand side does to steer, then also the supply side and the entire production supply chain, a huge potential in future, and also to have then, I would think, a better customer delivery of service and products to the customers.
Right. Vignesh, 5 years down the line, of course, dealerships will continue to remain in a market like India, but perhaps in a different avatar or different shape and size. and offering maybe some more different services?
Yesterday it was digital. According to Prashant, today it is virtual. God knows what is going to happen tomorrow. But what we as dealers, as a last mile connect to customers, is that we need to keep our minds open and our ears to the ground, trying to listen to what the customer is telling us. It is very important that we serve the customer in the way the customer wants to be served, rather than doing anything else. So, which also means that we need to change quickly, whether as the industry, the OEM, the dealer, as well as all the ancillary industries outside. We all need to probably listen to the customer and also take into consideration that what's also best for the customer in terms of technology, in terms of whatever is being exposed to. So that's what I think. And yes, believe me, the dealerships are always going to find a new way to talk about to customers. Telematics is the next, according to me, is something which is very, very big, and especially in certain industries like the commercial vehicle industry. Telematics by itself could become a vertical stream. So yeah.
Indeed, boundaries are getting pushed with technology increasingly playing a key role in our lives across sectors. And also, when it comes to the automotive industry, yes, physical, digital, virtual, everything will coexist. Perhaps the share will keep changing. And in this very exciting and dynamic industry of automobiles, I'm sure digitalization trend will add more excitement and lead the industry towards better times. So on that note, Mr. Martin Schwenk, Shashank Srivastava, CS Vigneshwar, and Prashant Sinha, thank you very much, gentlemen, for sharing your thoughts in this very interesting and insightful discussion. So wishing you all the very best, and take care and stay safe. But on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning into, for attending this panel discussion. So wishing you all the very best. Take care and stay safe.